somehow he still ended up in the crosshairs.
God forbid I say something about it. Go ahead.
Weird, Dana.
Jeez, catching strays in my own living room on a Sunday.
Here's what most people missed about Tom Aspinall. The guy wasn't even scheduled to fight at UFC 324, yet somehow he became the biggest story coming out of that event.
Oh, Jesus. Don't let me talk about Tom Aspinall's eye. Apparently he's going in for a second surgery or just had it, and by surgery, I mean injections. I have no idea. Get a quote from him. God.
So Dana White just finished wrapping up the UFC 34 post-fight presser when everything exploded. Aspinall had been laying low, recovering from eye surgery after that mess at UFC 321 3 months back. The heavyweight champ wasn't promoting fights, wasn't calling anyone out, wasn't stirring up drama. He was just trying to heal from injuries that completely derailed his title run and got the entire MMA world arguing for months. But then someone asked Dana about Aspinall's eye situation and whether we'd see that Cyril Gane rematch. White's answer, pure frustration mixed with some serious passive-aggressive energy that told you everything you needed to know about how he really felt.
Jeez, catching strays in my own living room on a Sunday.
The whole thing was dripping with subtext and barely hidden irritation. That theatrical sigh when he heard Aspinall's name, the dismissive shrug, the sarcastic little jab at the end that basically screamed he was over dealing with what he saw as unnecessary drama, instead of a real medical situation affecting his heavyweight champion. White's body language said it all. This was a man who'd gotten tired of talking about an injury he maybe never bought into from day one. The clip went viral within hours. Happy Punch, Sportskeeda MMA, all the major accounts pushed it to millions of followers worldwide. Everyone started breaking down every word, every expression, every hidden meaning in White's response. What made it worse was the timing. Aspinall hadn't been making headlines. He wasn't demanding denim or creating controversy. He was thousands of miles away from the venue, just dealing with documented medical procedures. And here's Dana, completely unprompted, taking shots at the injury situation. By the next day, Aspinall had seen enough.
Guys, I just poked knuckle deep in the eyeball. Why are you booing? What am I supposed to do about it? I didn't do poke. I can't see. The fight was just getting going.
January 26, 2026. Aspinall fires back with a video that changes everything. He's sitting in his living room, watching the press conference on his phone, and you can see the disbelief washing over his face in real time. But that initial shock quickly transformed into something much more intense. According to everyone who caught the full clip, Aspinall's frustration boiled over completely. He let loose with unfiltered anger at the UFC president who signs his checks. The money quote that summed up this whole mess perfectly. He's catching heat in his own house on a Sunday morning. That phrase captured everything about where Aspinall found himself. Just trying to recover from serious injuries that needed multiple surgeries, and still getting targeted by his own boss. He wasn't creating problems or making demands. He was simply existing, trying to get better, and Dana was still firing shots. The response dominated MMA coverage for days. Shore Dog, Sportskeeda, MMA Fighting, every major outlet ran with Aspinall's explosive reaction. Social media went absolutely crazy with takes from every corner of the fight world. Some people backed Aspinall completely, calling White's behavior unprofessional and dismissive. Others sided with Dana, saying Aspinall's reaction proved the original criticism was justified. Big names from the MMA community jumped in. Henry Cejudo went back and forth with White about the whole situation, publicly defending Aspinall. Aspinall's father Andy weighed in too, suggesting White's comments were financially motivated to protect other interests in the heavyweight division. But this wasn't White's first time questioning the injury. To understand why the champion finally snapped, you need to go back to where it all began. That night in Abu Dhabi that was supposed to make Aspinall a legend, but instead started months of controversy.
I can hardly open my eye. He was fucking, look.
Look at this.
Poke, both eyeballs.
Yeah, it was double.
October 25th, 2025. UFC 3021 at Etihad Arena in Abu Dhabi. Tom Aspinall walks into the octagon to defend his heavyweight title against Cyril Gane. The anticipation had been building for years. These two represented where the heavyweight division was headed, Athletic, technical big men who moved nothing like the slow heavyweights from back in the day. Aspinall came in 15-3, riding this insane knockout streak that made him the most feared finisher in the division. Gane brought that French precision and elusive movement that had given problems to everyone he'd faced at 12-3. Vegas slightly favored Aspinall, but everyone knew this would be competitive as hell between two elite fighters at their absolute peak. Instead, it lasted 4 minutes and 35 seconds before ending in a no contest because of an accidental eye poke. 4 minutes and 35 seconds. That's how long it took for months of anticipation to turn into accusations, controversy, and an ongoing feud that's still not resolved. Here's exactly what went down. Referee Jason Herzog warned Gane twice about extending his fingers toward Aspinall's face before the foul happened. The warnings were crystal clear. The ref saw dangerous behavior and told Gane directly to stop. Despite those warnings, Gane then poked Aspinall in both eyes during an exchange in round 1. Aspinall immediately pulled back, grabbing his face and frantically signaling to the referee that his vision was gone. The fight stopped. The cage-side doctor checked Aspinall's eyes under those bright arena lights. After confirming Aspinall couldn't continue, Herzog called it a no contest, and Aspinall kept his heavyweight title in the most unsatisfying way possible. Aspinall's reaction in the Octagon interview showed you everything about a man dealing with physical pain and emotional chaos.
I didn't do it on purpose, and I know what it is to have an eye poke, because when I fought Derek Lewis, I got an eye poke, and I was seeing two Derek Lewis for a full round. So I know how it is. And
one round during that is what the debut of the round, and the rest of the round. So the two Derek Lewis. So I'm not gonna say yeah, he's a liar.
The crowd absolutely destroyed him. Thousands of fans who paid serious money to watch a heavyweight title fight, people who traveled from around the globe to see this moment, booed the champion for stopping. Aspinall had to defend himself to an audience that either didn't understand or didn't care what just happened to him. When they asked about his vision, Aspinall made the severity crystal clear.
And you definitely can't make somebody continue if they feel they've been injured. Only Tom knows what happened. You know, could he see, couldn't he see, could he continue?
He kept his title, but nobody felt good about how it happened. Fans felt robbed of the spectacle they paid for. Gane felt cheated out of his shot to prove himself against the champ. And Aspinall felt attacked for choosing to protect his health and future well-being. Cyril Gane's reaction after the fight showed his perspective and revealed an empathy and understanding that would be notably missing from others afterward.
Yeah, I mean, he had Tom bloodied up, and you know, Tom didn't want to continue in the fight, so the rematch is very interesting.
Gane's response was huge. Here's the guy who threw the foul, the person with the most reason to be frustrated, and he's defending Aspinall's choice to stop. He acknowledged that eye poke injuries are legitimate from his own experience. He mentioned his fight with Derek Lewis, where he saw a double for an entire round after getting poked. He straight up refused to call Aspinall a liar or say he was exaggerating the injury. Backstage footage caught Aspinall's raw emotion right after leaving the octagon. All that preparation for this, what is he doing? He got warned twice and still did it again. The frustration in his voice was unmistakable. Months of training, sacrificing time with family, pushing his body to the limit, only to have it end because of a foul the referee had already addressed twice. But the fight ending was just the start of a controversy that would consume the MMA world for months.
A lot of people ask me, what's up with Aspinall? What's up with the eye poke? I don't know. Only he knows how bad it was. But I've been in a lot of fights where I've got eye poked and I continued. And only he knows.
Dana White's first public comments came at the UFC 3021 post-fight presser just hours after the controversial ending. His tone seemed measured on the surface, but there was skepticism underneath that would later blow up into full controversy and months of tension.
From here onwards to the right, it's just double vision constantly. And it's a little bit grey as well. So I've got like a grey eyesight from there onwards and double vision.
That phrase, "only Tom knows," hit the MMA community like a bomb. White framed the stoppage not as a medical necessity determined by a doctor and referee, but as a choice Aspinall made based on feelings rather than medical reality. White doubled down on his skepticism, with comments that fueled the narrative against Aspinall.
This eye's still a little bit blurry. The other part of this eye is blurry, but the main thing that's bothering me at the minute is double vision.
From what I gathered, obviously you've had eye movement tests, and those eye movement tests have shown that there is a reduction in the ability for the muscles of your eyes to move up.
The implication was crystal clear to anyone really listening. The heavyweight champion chose to exit a fight he could have finished if he really wanted to. White pointed out that Gane had bloodied up Tom, pushing a narrative that Aspinall's critics would run with for weeks, that the champion found a convenient way out of a bout that wasn't going his way. The online reaction was instant and brutal. Fans on Twitter and Reddit accused Aspinall of milking the injury to escape a tough spot. Posts called him soft and much worse. Comment sections everywhere filled with accusations of cowardice and faking. Users said Aspinall's reputation was permanently damaged for not pushing through like a real champion would. The narrative flipped fast from sympathy for an injured fighter to deep suspicion about his motives and toughness. Aspinall addressed the criticism directly in the weeks after, clearly hurt by how fans treated him and implicitly how White handled things. He said publicly that he wasn't stupid and wouldn't risk permanent vision damage for any fight, no matter how important or how much money was involved. The champion emphasized something telling about his relationship with the promoter. White hadn't contacted him directly since the injury. No phone call, no text, no direct communication from the organization's head to one of its champions dealing with serious medical issues. Everything Aspinall knew about White's opinions came through press conferences and media interviews. Public forums where White's skepticism got broadcast to millions worldwide. White tried to clarify his position in December 2025 as the controversy kept growing. He insisted he never meant to be negative or harsh toward Aspinall, framing his earlier comments as factual observations rather than pointed criticism of the champion's character or toughness. "Never once did I say anything negative about him in a derogatory way," White said, defending against accusations that he threw his own champion under the bus publicly. But the damage was done. The perception that White doubted Aspinall's injury had taken hold in the MMA community and wouldn't budge despite his protests. Dustin Poirier, who's dealt with countless eye pokes over his long career, offered a balanced perspective that acknowledged the genuine complexity most people ignore.
So essentially your eyeball has muscles on the outside and it works like a pulley system. So when one muscle relaxes and one muscle pulls, your eyes move across to your left and then right. If there's damage to these eye muscles, even one small muscle, which are very small, then you can get one eye moving up and the other eye doesn't follow.
Poirier's comments reflected the real complexity critics ignored in their rush to judgment. Every fighter's experience with eye pokes is different. Where the poke hits, the angle, the force, the specific structures affected, all these factors determine whether someone can continue or not. What one person fights through, another simply can't. The only person who truly knows how severe an eye injury is happens to be the person experiencing it right then. By late 2025, things seemed to cool down. White had walked back his most provocative statements. Aspinall focused on recovery and staying out of the spotlight. But January 2026 brought a new flashpoint at that UFC 34 press conference. This time, there was no misunderstanding about where Aspinall stood on Dana White's treatment.
When I got poked in the eye, obviously, my eyes, because I seen some comments people, and then people were like, his eye wasn't even red. Does your eye always go red when there's something wrong, or is that?
You can absolutely lose your vision without having a painful red eye. So you don't need a red eye to have blurred vision at all.
The speculation about whether Aspinall exaggerated his injury ran into cold medical reality. When comprehensive reports emerged from his UK treatment, the evaluations revealed something way more serious than momentary stinging or temporary blurriness that would clear up in days. Aspinall had sustained bilateral traumatic Brown syndrome, a rare and serious condition affecting the muscles controlling eye movement in both eyes at once. Brown syndrome happens when there's damage to the superior oblique tendon mechanism. In simple terms anyone can understand, the trauma from Gane's fingers messed up the pulley system that lets eyes move together. When you look left, both eyes should move left together. When you look up, both should track upward in unison. Aspinall's eyes couldn't do this properly anymore. The result was devastating for a professional fighter who needs precise vision, persistent double vision that wouldn't resolve, restricted eye movement, limiting his ability to track motion. Severe visual field depression confirmed through specialized testing. Additional imaging showed a minimally displaced fracture of the right medial orbital wall, an actual broken bone in his eye socket that critics couldn't see from outside. Aspinall visited an eye specialist who documented the damage in detailed clinical terms. The examination was filmed and shared publicly, providing undeniable proof of what the champion was experiencing daily.
Based on my observations today, the condition appears to be called Brown's syndrome, so that's the eponymous name given to it, and trauma is usually the cause.
The doctor broke down the clinical findings from the comprehensive examination.
There is certainly things that happened as a result of that injury that has meant that you would have seen double during that fight had you continued.
So how long till I can train properly, spar?
It's a long road ahead, but the prognosis is guarded at the moment.
The specialist then explained why external appearances don't reveal the full story of eye injuries. A crucial point that social media critics completely failed to grasp.
I'm sorry that this has happened, and it's not nice. It's not nice to be in this position with lots of probably pressure coming from inside you, because I know you want to fight and I know you want to get back in there. But you have obviously noticed something. You had the courage to make that decision in a stressful environment and follow through with that decision, which has obviously been, in my view, the correct decision.
This was the key point critics missed in their rush to condemn Aspinall as soft or a quitter. Eyes can look perfectly normal from outside. No redness, no swelling, no obvious damage visible to cameras, while being functionally impaired in ways that make normal vision impossible. The damage wasn't inside the eyeball where observers could see it. It was in the delicate surrounding muscles, structures so small and precise that minor trauma causes major functional problems. The specialist directly addressed criticism Aspinall received about his eyes not looking red or visibly injured in fight footage. The doctor then confirmed the official diagnosis with clinical certainty. Regarding Aspinall's controversial decision to stop, rather than continue with impaired vision, the doctor's verdict was clear and left no debate. The specialist concluded by validating Aspinall's courage in making an unpopular choice under immense pressure. Aspinall described his recovery as a nightmare in later interviews. He underwent surgery on one eye with a second procedure planned for mid-January 2026. Treatment involved complex tendon release techniques plus steroid injections to reduce inflammation around damaged structures. By early January 2026, he'd been in and out of hospitals for 5 straight weeks. Orthoptic assessments, CT scans, MRI imaging, specialist monitoring, the medical evidence was undeniable for anyone approaching the situation honestly. This wasn't a fighter seeking an exit from a tough matchup. This wasn't someone exaggerating minor injury to avoid embarrassment. This was serious medical condition requiring surgical intervention and months of careful recovery. The Aspinall-White conflict exists within larger context, making it more than just personal dispute between fighter and promoter. The UFC heavyweight division has been plagued by instability, inactivity, and controversy for years. This feud threatens to make an already problematic situation significantly worse. Consider the timeline of heavyweight chaos. Jon Jones held the division hostage for over a year, fixated on fighting aging Stipe Miocic instead of the younger, more dangerous interim champion, waiting. Jones refused to face Aspinall, choosing legacy fight against a 42-year-old who hadn't competed in years. When that fight finally happened and Jones won, Aspinall got promoted to undisputed champion, without facing the man most considered the greatest heavyweight ever. Then came UFC 31, supposed to bring closure to years of division dysfunction. The unification bout between Aspinall and Gane would establish an active fighting champion who could defend regularly and bring legitimacy back to heavyweight ranks. Instead, the fight ended in controversy after just 4 minutes. And now the division sits in ruins. as ESPN described in their post-fight analysis. With no rematch date announced as of January 2026, and Aspinall's recovery potentially taking several more months, contenders like Curtis Blades, Sergey Pavlovich, and other emerging talents sit in limbo with no clear path forward. No timeline for title fights, no direction for the division. Speculation has emerged that White might strip Aspinall of the belt to avoid further delays, similar to past decisions involving interim titles when champions couldn't compete on the organization's preferred schedule. The irony of the entire situation is impossible to ignore for anyone paying attention. Aspinall has consistently pushed for action throughout his UFC career, not avoided it. Before UFC 31, he repeatedly called out Gane, accusing the Frenchman of ducking him and avoiding the fight everyone wanted to see. He described Gane as entitled rich kid who didn't deserve repeated title shots after refusing callouts at events like UFC Paris where a fight could have been made. Aspinall was never the one holding up the division. He was desperately trying to move it forward. When the Gane fight finally materialized after years of back and forth, it was Gane's foul that stopped it, not any action or inaction from Aspinall. The champion did everything right. He trained hard, showed up ready, engaged aggressively, and got poked in both eyes for his trouble. Curtis Blades, one of Aspinall's former opponents, who knows firsthand how dangerous and legitimate the champion is inside the octagon, defended him forcefully against the wave of criticism. He's not weak, he's not scared. He says he can't continue because his eyes are at the point where he can't see, he might get knocked out. I gotta respect it. Everyone in the UFC is a lion. Lions aren't scared of other lions. Blades' point cuts to the heart of criticism Aspinall faced from keyboard warriors and casual fans. This is a man who's knocked out elite heavyweights in devastating fashion. This is a fighter who's never shown hesitation to engage dangerous opponents. Questioning his toughness or courage requires ignoring everything he's demonstrated throughout his professional career. Modestas Bukauskas, Aspinall's teammate who trains with him regularly and knows his character intimately, called the treatment Aspinall received absolutely horrible. He destroyed the fan backlash and defended his friend against quitting accusations, pointing out the obvious: Aspinall had nothing to gain from faking an injury and everything to lose by stopping that fight. The broader issue of eye pokes in the UFC has come into sharper focus following the Aspinall-Gane incident and resulting controversy. There have been calls for drastic rule changes from fighters, analysts, and fans alike. Solutions include glove designs that curve fingers naturally, making extension difficult, immediate point deductions for open hand extensions toward the face, and automatic fines with purse percentages going to eye poke victims as compensation for damage inflicted. Referee Herb Dean has admitted publicly that referees haven't strictly enforced the extended fingers rule over the year. The reasoning was avoiding over-penalizing what are often accidental acts during combat chaos. But the consequence of lenient enforcement has been more pokes, more injuries, and more controversies, exactly like what derailed UFC. The UFC's new gloves, introduced in 2024 with considerable fanfare and safety promises, didn't address eye pokes effectively because they still allow finger extension. The fundamental design flaw enabling these injuries remains built into the equipment. Some analysts suggest Pride FC-style gloves that curve naturally could reduce eye poke incidents by 80 to 90%. Aspinall remains not medically cleared for combat as of late January. He's expressed willingness to rematch Gane once recovered, vowing to beat the living daylights out of the man who injured him. The desire for redemption and revenge burns within him, but until his double vision resolves completely and doctors clear him to take punches to the head again, that fight cannot happen regardless of how badly he wants it or how loudly fans demand it. This saga has positioned Aspinall as an unlikely advocate for fighter safety in a sport that often glorifies toughness above everything else. By refusing to continue when he couldn't see properly, by documenting his injury thoroughly and sharing it publicly, and by pushing back against dismissive treatment from UFC leadership, he's made a statement that resonates beyond his own situation. Injuries are real, medical decisions should be respected, and fighters shouldn't be shamed or mocked for protecting their long-term health and quality of life. Whether Dana White changes his approach to Aspinall going forward, whether the UFC implements meaningful reforms to address the eye poke epidemic plaguing the sport, and whether Aspinall gets the rematch he desperately wants, all these questions remain uncertain right now. What's clear is that one phrase delivered from a living room on a Sunday morning, while watching his boss mock him on television, captured the tension perfectly. Tom Aspinall isn't backing down, and until his eyes heal, Neither is this controversy.